Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our DEI Fireside Chat Series. James Hunter serves as Chief Advocacy and Culture Officer at New Orleans Firemen's Federal Credit Union, where he leads efforts to champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and community advocacy. Since joining in December of 2021, he has worked to build an inclusive organizational culture internally across employees and externally through accessible financial products and services focused on how to serve low and moderate income communities. James is driven by a quote from James Baldwin. Anyone who's ever struggled with poverty knows how extremely expensive it is to be poor. This belief guides his work in creating inclusive credit union services such as affordable mortgages, financial counseling, virtual webinars, and bridge loans that empower members to rebuild credit, avoid predatory lending, and pursue financial stability. James brings over a decade of leadership in financial services, including senior roles at Alternatives Federal Credit Union and Hope Credit Union. James holds a bachelor's degree in public communication and human relations from Western Illinois University and a master's degree in public administration from Webster University. Welcome to our series, James.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Francis. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks so much. So before we start, I want to contextualize our meeting and our conversation today by saying that we super appreciate the warm relationship between the Firemen's Credit Union and Beneficial State Foundation. You've been an active and engaged participant in our Underwriting for Racial Justice pilot program. You are featured in our Financial Inclusion video case study, which we're proud to share that has won 2 Silver Telly Awards, one for social impact and one in the financial services sector. So your deep partnership with the foundation is super appreciated.
And then vice versa. I think it's been a great cooperative relationship, and what it has done is transform our platform to do greater things.
So James, throughout your career, you've demonstrated a deep commitment to helping the underserved by providing unique product and services designed to help people break the financial wealth divide. So what moments in your career have most shaped your approach to how you deliver financial services to the most vulnerable in our society?
I would probably say that, Francis, I date myself and I go this far, but I've been in the financial services industry working for banks as well, 2 of the largest banks in the world at one point. And in those banks, I learned a lot, but I also learned about what I didn't like. And I actually left one bank for the purpose of trying to better myself and ended up working for a nonprofit for the water system in San Antonio, Texas. And it was there that I had an aha moment that I thought, I think I'm doing the wrong thing, but I know what the right thing can be. And that was when I was working as the area manager for the water system. And they gave me a route that I had to fill with my employees where we had to cut off someone's water who was very, very, very prominent in the area. And I got a lot of backlash from that. And my first thought was, well, why is that person more important than others? And I took that as a call of action and said, well, why don't we make a program for those individuals who are not being served properly? And I wrote a grant called Project Agua. And it was able to help people who were not able to afford their water bill get ahead of the game. Well, that also left a nasty taste in my mouth. So I went back to the banking industry and said, hey, I need a career. And worked as an area underwriting manager. And I tell you what, in that aspect of working in that environment, I learned so much stuff about mortgages and how they're transforming people's lives, or how they could be a hindrance for people because they want to be in the realm of being a homeowner, but they don't know how to get there. So fast forward, and I get to the point where I join a credit union. And I say, this credit union, well, what can we do to make the best of all these worlds come together and leverage my expertise? So I wrote a program that combined the best of every loan product that I knew, from rural development to FHA to conventional loans, And I said, let's call it the Affordable Home Project. And this loan at that time was revolutionary. It was doing 100% loan to value, had no private mortgage insurance, was able to allow you to take a rent payment and turn it into a mortgage payment. As long as you able to repay, it was something that was revolutionary. We took that program and we learned that there was a need. Over the course of 2 years, about $60 million of loans were done to first-time home buyers. And 90% of those were to people of color or women. And it just was really an amazing thing to help out of persistent poverty area in Mississippi and also throughout Louisiana that was really trying its best to bridge that gap and bring generational wealth. So I lean on that a lot because that right there helped me understand that it's not about giving someone a handout, it's about a hand up. And what I've done is you bridge that gap and can make someone help see that future, it changes the whole narrative.
So much appreciate those insights from you, James. So what does diversity, equity, inclusion mean to you personally, and why is it central to how you lead?
For me personally, I have to draw on experiences where being a young Black man going through life, living in Chicago, Illinois, trying to be in a position where I could better myself. My mother struggled very hard to put me through good schooling, where I went to Catholic school from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade. Consistently throughout that time where I was in school, I was one of only 2 or 3 people that were of color, that were able to be a voice for everyone. And I could not voice everyone's opinion about what it is to be Black because each person is different. But at the same time, I was that person. And it got to a point where I thought, well, you know what? I'm always the person that looks around to see who's not fitting in or who's isolated in the environment. I don't care what it is. I just finished an executive training program. And the first thing I did when I got in there was I started counting how many people are white, how many people are Black, what about Asians, what other minorities? Because I want to see this playing field come to a head where there's people who can have the tools to be what they want to be. So I would have to say this, diversity to me is about recognizing the full spectrum. If there's everyone that's included in this ingredient, this gumbo, are they represented? Because in New Orleans, if the gumbo don't have all the ingredients in it, they don't taste right. So I think of that as the same analogy when I look at this environment where diversity is included. Now, equity, of course, I love equity because I think that's the injection that can change and transforms everyone's life. It's giving people what they need adequately to be able to be successful. People look at that picture sometimes of individuals on a playing field or the baseball field. They have different things that are stacking them up to see the field. And you have to sometimes apply something different from some other people than what someone else may need. But being able to recognize those things are just as important, whether it be systemic barriers or acknowledging historical data that may have been misunderstood or used improperly. And for me, inclusion is about belonging. I think it's about helping people just be the best selves and not judging and being able to say, you know what, welcome. Someone told me a long time ago when I got into this that it's about being able to be asked to dance or be invited to the party and vice versa. I want to go to the party, but I want to dance because I want to show you what I got. And I think when you look at all those different things, I honestly can say this, we're making progress in this world, but there's so much opportunity out there. And especially with the current regime that we have, people look at it as a negative as opposed to the most unique thing we can share is that we're all different. We're all in common with that we can share that we're different. What can we learn from it?
Wow. Thank you for those beautiful insights of your lived experience. So, James, how does a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion translate into a stronger, more responsive organizational culture in the financial services industry context?
Ooh. I think that when a credit union or bank or anyone embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion, you become more tuned to lead with empathy. Also having ways to be innovative to overcome some of these barriers that are out there that involve diversity, equity, and inclusion. but also you provide trustworthiness in people because they realize that you are there to help recognize them no matter what's going on in the world. I think that those that adapt to that become more savvy with building a culture. They help people feel like they're part of a bigger picture. And it also helps people who are trying to get a mission to serve, people who are overlooked, underserved, and need a chance to be seen to be able to be that.
Great, fantastic. James, what are some of the unique needs of underserved or vulnerable communities in your service area? And how has your credit union adopted its culture to respond more effectively to those needs?
I have to lean back on what you said earlier, which is that it is extremely expensive, underserved, and under-resourced. And I think that when you look at some of the things that are developmental concerns in the area that I'm in, and even across most of this country, you'll find out from savings in credit, hunger, housing, health, education, employment, transportation, technology, all these things have a concern with people trying to be able to reach a point where they can be able to be part of the American dream. And the lack
Mhm.
of those things are things that our credit union looks at to try to bridge. One thing that we've done to adopt to this culture and respond is we created a financial inclusion key. So what does that mean? We call it FIT. Every loan in our organization that is adverse doesn't become you're denied. It becomes, I want to connect you with the financial inclusion team to help you build a pathway towards getting the right products for you. My team takes a person and says, let's go on a journey. Let's understand your story. Let's find out what we can do to mitigate what's going on and get you in a position where you can do better. It might take some people longer than others, but if a person is willing and committed to do that journey, we'll work with them. And leveraging what I bring to the table from being a previous chief lending officer, once those loans are put into a position where they're in fruition and come to reality, we've identified a product that's right for them, I then underwrite that loan. And I then track that along with my team for impact to make sure that we can see someone's credit migration, someone's health be improved, someone's matrix that we have in there that have not been recognized come to a better situation. And then you quantify it, and you hopefully add water and repeat, because there are so many people who run from help. And you have to, again, have an empathetic view on it and help them understand that there's nothing you can share with me that I don't understand. I'm not here to judge you, but if you want to work on something that's going to get you from where you are to where you want to be, this might be that. And
Yeah.
the success stories from this are amazing, that people share their stories. They tell people that they want to come to our credit union and get the assistance that they need. And then we are a
Wow.
safe space.
Yeah, James so epitomizes the underlying, core credit union philosophy of people helping people, and your whole fit paradigm really, helps to contextualize it. Hey, somebody has a story that we need to hear, and I think your organization does such a profoundly beautiful way of trying to understand people's stories so they can get access to the services that they could use to better their lives. So, from your perspective, how can diversity, equity, inclusion uh, sort of the approach be integrated into the DNA of a financial institution beyond human resources or marketing? So it influences, the full enterprise, including lending, risk governance, and strategic planning.
That's a very good question, Francis. I think to truly integrate the DEI into, and I say DEIJ, justice as well, into any financial institution, especially a credit union, we have to stop treating like it's a department
Mm.
or a checkbox. It's not that. It's a start where we look at different things from a different lens, in which we make a decision that's going to be more equitable for the mass that we're trying to serve. It isn't how we hire people or promote them. It's about how we show up in every line of business, from lending to making policies that are designed to govern ourselves and reinforce what we do. These risk models are things that we can take to express how we feel as a credit union, with our brand statement, with our proposition values, and let it be known that these are things that we stand for and we don't waver upon.
Fantastic. So, what's the role of leadership in advancing diversity, equity, inclusion in meaningful, effective, and measurable ways?
Leadership sets the tone for everything. I think that it's not just what an organization says, but what they do.
Mm,
There's another quote by James Baldwin that says, I can't hear what you're saying because I can see what you do.
mm,
And when you take that into consideration, talk is cheap, but actions speak louder than words. And I think that when you're trying to find that mile that you're trying to run, you have to be able to be a leader. And in that sometimes position, you have to be able to be saying to yourself, I'm okay with being on an island. No one wants to find us over here. They have a government administration that doesn't want to be a part of what we're doing. It's a bad word to say. I don't care.
right. So, building upon that, so how do you build internal accountability for diversity, equity, inclusion progress without making it feel like it's a checkbox exercise?
Um, to me, accountability starts with ownership and not an obligation. I think that when everybody on the team can look at their goals and tie them into the bigger picture of what DEI represents, it brings accountability into play because you then, from your policies to the way you treat people to the way you hire individuals to the way you do interviews, set a tone. One thing that we've done at our credit union that was kind of important was when we do interviews. We are the people that will not look at your name, your personal information. All we want to know is, are you qualified for the position based on what you have answered as far as questions? And we'll reveal what that person is or who they are, but it gives a playing field that makes things easier. So I think that when you start doing those things and embed them in how you do things, it makes the culture you're trying to build easier from who you're trying to hire, promote, or retain, and it then becomes real.
Amazing, amazing. So, from your perspective, what metrics or indicators do you think are most effective in tracking progress toward equity and inclusion goals?
Um, of course, being a person who comes from a background of empirical data, I love quantitative and qualitative data.
Mm,
And when you can help quantify things by measuring them, it helps identify what the need is and how you overcome it. The issue is you know exactly what to measure. I find most effective that it's important to measure someone's financial well-being from beginning to end and measure it. Also, things that people don't realize is how about someone's ability to sleep at night? Someone able to look the kid in the eyes and say, I can pay your bills. And you don't have to worry about someone telling you can't eat food that day, which they should never or not, but I've heard that. Um, how about someone's journey towards home ownership? Can you measure them? How about having just a general conversation and find out how someone's story may be impactful and how they want to do what they need to do but don't know where to start? I think that when you get all those things, you can then come up with honest stories that illustrate someone's story, that plight to where they want to go. And at that point, it becomes a living, breathing document that you can look at that helps people say, this is my story, this is where I've been. I stay grounded by doing this work, and I'm not looking for anything for it, but I do say this. It's a mission that you have that's rooted in people. And you can realize that from looking at the frontline employee who can't pay their bills and doesn't realize what it takes to get from where they are to where they want to be. That's just a single mom who is caught in predatory loans that can now raise her head and say she can finally breathe and her check isn't being taken away from her. I just think that there's a national conversation that needs to be shifted about what you're talking about. And equity wasn't built for comfort.
mm,
It's built for those that have courage. And those that
Right.
make a change, again, like I said earlier, recognizing the truth and how urgent it is, it's okay to be on the island sometimes. But when others come over, the coolest thing about it is that you're not here to judge them. You welcome them with open arms and help celebrate them for their courage to come over and realize what's right. My mother used to always say, it's never too late to be on the side of right. Right can't go wrong. And those things used to confuse me, but now this is the 10th anniversary of her passing away. Those things hit me all the time in my brain. They resonate so well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So we're going to do a bit of a pivot here, James. We're going to talk about our current social, political environment. So we're living in a time when diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives are under political attack across the country. How do you stay grounded and motivated as a leader in this really challenging environment?
I think I should run for office too, because you can approve my message. But let's be clear about something. First of all, DEI is not divisive, I don't think. I think that exclusion is divisive. So the poise and things that we're seeing to help separate people, I think we need to address and realize the underlying reason behind them and recognize it's what's being done. Inequity is divisive. Silence in the face of barriers, that's divisive. We need to find out that DEI at its core is very simple. And I can make it so easy. Treat others like you want to be treated. If we can do that, we have accomplished diversity, equity, inclusion, in my definition. That is based in religion, that is based in humanity, that's based in goodwill. All those different aspects you can look at, single that whole thought about treating people like you want to be treated. That's not politics. That's being human, in my opinion. So the credit union movement is at its best when you find people at risk, you find a way to help them out. And I think that we find missed opportunities when we find ourselves not acknowledging what DEI brings to the table. You find people that are not engaged. You find members that don't trust what's going on. Because whether you believe it or not, there's a group of people who feel the opposite of what the majority, or they claim the majority thinks about DEI. Well, they're being left out to the table or having a hard time having a conversation with their boss saying, in case someone comes and takes me away, here my paper saying that I'm a U.S. citizen. Imagine how someone feels like that. Those are not good conversations that you want to have. In this environment that we're in, I just don't see that being a true representation of who we are. And also, it's just missed market opportunities. Instead of reaffirming values that we feel are good to us as Americans, I feel like we're separating ourselves. So,
Yeah. Thank you for that. So you've already addressed this somewhat already in terms of how, some of the work we're doing around, these initiatives around diversity, equity, inclusion are framed as divisive or, pulling people apart. So from your perspective, what's at risk when financial institutions who have already started this work on this journey actually just pull back completely? What is the risk to the enterprise?
the risk is that you're going to miss out on a population of people who need something that we can have an answer for. And in that becomes the output of those missed opportunities, which to relate to increase in crime, increase in people who are not being the best citizen that they can be, kids not growing up in an environment where they feel comfortable, zip code envy is in place where people don't know where they want to live. Those are all things that I think are outputs that are not what we want to see. I also talked about this earlier, but the trust. For those that are out here that want to see change and not seeing it, they find themselves not trusting what a financial institution can bring. If you look at the purpose in which credit unions were founded upon, it was founded by people who couldn't fit in, who were outskirts of an environment that didn't want to let them in. So they started their own to help their own. That right there is where I think you have to understand that why we're in business. if you want to be in a position where you follow those rules that don't lead to equity or outcomes that are vulnerable or good for people, shame on you. I don't want to see myself doing well and others suffering when that's something I can bring to the table that can help them out. It just doesn't make sense. So for people that are feeling pressure, I get, but don't let fear drive your mission. Let purpose drive. Because at the end of the day, DEI isn't a risk; it's a responsibility.
Yep. Couldn't agree more with you, James. Thank you for that. So, how can banks and credit unions play a more active role in advancing financial inclusion and economic mobility for low and moderate income communities? Not just access, but true equity.
Well, that is the end result of what DEI brings, which is justice. I think it writes a playing field that has been skewed for times that I don't even want to go into. But I think that banks can be more active as well as credit unions by redesigning and lending to reflect real life barriers. Also, talking to people who are involved in these concerns and issues and ask them the question, what's going on? If you had an option to solve, what would be the answer to your equation? It's like being a scientist where you have to be willing to dig deeper and spend more time on the problem than the answer, because when you understand the problem fully, you can then come up with the answer that's pretty good. I think you invest in target markets and you make empowerment programs, because I think sometimes you find issues where people don't have the education or the knowledge when it comes to financial literacy. And with that gap, people prey on that. Predatory loans, they prey on people's inability to make decisions when issues come up that are gonna put them in financial straits. So why not give them education to say that if you have these things, here are options for you. I think that when I went through grade school, even undergrad or even graduate school, I never heard no one talking about financial literacy. And I think that that needs to be a shift in what we do, because those concerns that we have in that element, in that realm, if they're not acknowledged properly, can be detrimental. And also, I think measuring equitable outcomes that are there, not just access and matrix. Sometimes you make up a KPI or a matrix just to say we did it, because what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. We use that mantra. Well, it's more important than that. It's about taking real life people who have concerns and finding out, did we make an impact? Did we make a move in the needle? Have their financial situations improved? Are they back to the same old drawing board? Or have they transformed their lives? Like in the video that we did with you, that gentleman that we interviewed, he started off as a sole person in his own business. That's a backdrop to the story. And you fast forward now, he has 4 families that he supports. He has a fleet of trucks. He has a thought process where he knows his purpose. Those things don't happen when you don't give outcomes that people can tangibly hold on to.
Yeah, I love it when you can refer to specific examples of a person or organization that you've been able to empower, and then now they have the resources to be able to nurture their community, help other families thrive. So I love that particular story, and I'm glad we're able to capture that in our video case study series. So
It is amazing.
appreciate your support for that. So, James, what advice would you give to financial institutions that are just now starting their diversity, equity, inclusion journey? Where should they begin? How should they think about this work in this particular moment?
The first thing I would say is take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
I would say don't rush to check boxes, but ask yourself truly what's going on. Whenever I hear questions about diversity, equity, inclusion, I think of Marvin Gaye. And I think everyone in this room, if they don't know who he is, needs to find out that song he made, what's going on. It gives me the groundwork to ask simple questions. So when I ask what's going on, that's my cue to say, let's go to the people and ask, what is hindering you? If we can do that, we can then make a platform to make change happen. Can we address everything that they say are issues or concerns? Maybe not, but we can start a process to maybe inspire things that spill over into that will bring justice to those who are trying to find it. I think you have to clarify your why as why are you doing this? If you can do that, then you can maybe understand that if you're existing to serve people, that's what you're doing it for. And DEI becomes a little bit more understandable why you're doing it. Again, we want to treat people like we want to be treated, right? Whether it be spiritually, financially, historically, you want to treat people well. I think it's important to listen. I can't say that enough. Some of the best answers that come from anything that we do come from people who are experiencing what's going on. Again, Marvin Gaye. Listening is so important. Listen to understand, because if you do that, you can then really empathize, but also strategize on things that are going to help you make products and services or policies that are designed to bridge that gap and bring belonging and justice. I would also say it's important to build from the inside out. And I told you about practicing what you preach. Don't just talk about it. What are you doing internally? How are your hiring practices? How are your leaders being trained? How are the people that are doing the maintenance in your building being looked at? What kind of contracts, what kind of bids did you go through to get those things done? Remember, progress beats perfection.
Yeah.
We can't be perfect. No one is. But the start is important. It's a long-term commitment. And I think that if you're doing what's right, again, like I told you earlier, you can't go wrong. And then you'll find out what works for you and you keep on moving.
Yep. I love your perspective of, listen to understand. And what I would say to you is that one of my earliest mentors was that, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. There's that probably a ratio that we should appreciate and understand. James, I have one final question for you. So what keeps you hopeful? And actually 2 questions. So what keeps you hopeful, and what is your vision for the future of our industry?
What keeps me hopeful is that humanity is full of people who want to see change and understand what it takes to bring change. And they're not afraid to bring change. I think I choose hope, and I want to turn that into action. The resilience of people that have gone through things in life, it brings out the power of the cooperative spirit that we have. And I think it's crediting, first of all. We have to do more that we want to do to compete with what's going on out here, because it's our responsibility to change lives. It's our responsibility to take on that responsibility. But the vision I have, where financial justice isn't just a talking point, it's a standard. If I could see that, where every member, regardless of their background or zip code, has access to the tools they need, the trust and opportunities that they are deserving, and where they can thrive, that's the utopia that I feel would be amazing. So when I look at that, I like to say to anyone out there that's listening, let's lead with purpose. Let's build alliances that are going to help us move across the situation that we're in currently and create systems that we can work in the sandlot together to look at the bigger picture, which is how can we improve humanity? I don't want to look back 30, 40 years from now when I'm in a rocking chair and say, we're still fighting the same concern. I want to see resolution. I want to see something that has been progressively done to where we can sit and realize how we've righted the wrong and brought justice to something that at one point didn't have it. Together, I think the cooperation, we can close these gaps. We can build wealth for others and deliver our promise of people up to people. I think the future is ours to shape. I say I want to shape it boldly.
James, it's been such a delight to have you in this conversation. I'm suspecting my colleagues are going to be we're excited to engage with you with further questions and comments. But again, so much appreciation from our entire team for the beauty of your insights and perspectives, and and we'll look forward to our continued partnership and engagement.
Thank you, Francis. When you first asked me to do this, I felt obligated because it's important that if my words, my actions can inspire someone, it might be the one that gets inspired to do the greatest work of all time, which is make our humanity better.